Yo, make sure you guys drop a like and subscribe in the next 5 seconds, and something good will happen to you in the next 24 hours. All right, what is good? What is happening? How's everybody doing today? My name is Chuck, and welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we're going to be jumping into what are my settings in Warzone, because a lot of you guys out there have really been requesting me to show what I exactly have as my settings, you know, what I do for my controller sensitivity, my dead zone, my field of view, all this stuff. You guys really want to be able to see what I'm rocking, so that way you guys can apply it to yourselves. And of course, I'm going to give you guys some tips and everything on stuff you should have enabled versus disabled, and things that you should definitely just change around, so that way you can maximize your Warzone experience and have the most fluid movement and everything possible. It's just gonna be really awesome, so I hope you guys enjoy the video. Before we any further though, make sure you guys drop a like on this thing and also subscribe with all notifications turned on. We're on the road to 800,000 subscribers, so it'd be awesome if you guys could join the squad. Really would appreciate that. And make sure you guys comment down in the comment section below, what is the highest amount of kills you've ever gotten in Warzone? Okay, first things first, I want you guys to know that I play with a controller on PC, so I happen to have this SCUF controller right here, and this is actually plugged into my PC via my SCUF cable, and this is basically what I've been using all the time. Now, as far as my settings go, obviously I'm not going to get into a lot of this little nitty-gritty stuff here, because obviously I don't play on, you know, keyboard and mouse. But as far as my general stuff goes, of course I play with my controller. My field of view as the maximum field of view can possibly get. I play on 120 field of view. Consoles only go to about an 80 field of view, which you guys can definitely see right there. You don't have that option to even slide it, no matter if you're on, you know, the PS5 or the Xbox Series X. I mean, it really does not matter. You just don't have the option to be able to slide it, and that field of view is absolutely crucial when you're playing Warzone. You can just see so much more around you. So playing on PC, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, does give you an incredibly big benefit. And so if you have the option to play on PC with a controller, I'd highly suggest downloading Warzone to try it out. Something also that a lot of people mention is that my ADS field of view, well, they don't directly mention that. They just mention that, hey, it looks like you don't have that much recoil on your gun, so they think I'm using something like a Cronus. The reason people actually think that is because this ADS field of view, what this does is that, normally speaking, on console, when you aim in down sights, you have a much more zoomed in version of what you're looking at, versus when you play on affected, my gun does not actually fully zoom in, so I don't actually zoom in nearly as much. So the gun's gonna stay farther away from me, aka because it's actually a little bit of a smaller type of thing to look at, it actually looks literally like it has less recoil than it actually does. It still has the same amount as if I was to actually play on, you know, non-affected, but just because I have it on affected, it makes it look like I have less recoil than I actually do. So it's kind of one of those other benefits to playing on PC. My brightness is just on a 55. My heads-up display is just on this, you know, full, all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to scroll down here. There's not really too much I need to tell you guys about, apart from this, the HUD. In terms of your mini-map shape, you guys should have your mini-map shape turned to square. If you play on circle, you're going to get less of a field of view to be able to see what is around you. The square mini-map is literally bigger than the circle one, so it doesn't matter if you're playing multiplayer or if you're playing Warzone, you should always have the square mini-map on. And then of course I just have my frames per second, you know, my FPS up there in the top corner. So if any of you guys have ever paid attention to that, you can see how many frames I'm getting in. Basically, you know, my server latency, you can see, you know, what my ping is to the server. As far as my graphics and everything go, I play in full screen borderless. That's my monitor. I have like an Asus 144 hertz refresh rate monitor. I have an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2080 Ti. It's like the 11 gigabyte turbo version of it. Of course, I play on 144 hertz refresh rate, which is absolutely something massive. On console, you could basically only get up to about a 60 hertz refresh rate, and then you actually have to switch over to PC to be able to get a higher refresh rate. I know on PS5 and Xbox Series X you can get up there a little bit more so, but even then it's not like it's, you know, guaranteed to match exactly what you get on PC. So it's super nice to be able to have that super high refresh rate. It makes a world of difference going from console to PC. Like, it really is like an entirely different game. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's a very vastly different experience, and you are definitely at an advantage when it comes to your refresh rate, your field of view, different stuff like that. I mean, playing on PC is a really big thing. Here's just some of my different stuff as far as like my textures go. This is on low, texture is on normal, the anti-tropic is on normal, this is on low, disabled, tessellation is on near, this is on disabled 1.0, the 16. I mean, basically you guys can just see, I'm not going to talk about absolutely everything, but something you should also definitely do is disable your RTX, your ray tracing. This is going to really slow down your frames. So if you're playing on PC, basically turn this off. Like, there's no reason for you to have this on unless you have an absolute tank of a computer. Then at that point you guys can definitely use that, but otherwise I wouldn't definitely do that at all. And so there's some of this other stuff down here, like my anti-aliasing is on Filmic SMAAT2X. That seems to work really good for me. And something you guys should definitely have is, of course, then your depth of field is, you know, disabled. There's no reason to have that. Your Filmic strength, it definitely wants to be at 0, and then your world motion blur needs to be disabled, and your weapon motion blur also needs to be disabled. There's no reason to have any of these things on, either of these things on. Always have these things disabled. You're just going to do yourself a disservice by having one or more of them on. It just does not do you any benefit. It may look, I guess, a tad bit cool, but realistically speaking, you should always have these turned off. And also your film grain needs to be turned way down to 0. There's no reason for you guys to have the film grain on. It's just literally going to make your game more grainy, which is not going to do you any good. As far as my audio mix goes, I literally just have this on dynamic home theater. My master volume is at 65 because I've put up to 100. It'd be literally insanely loud for me. That's one of those things of playing on PC. You can get your game to go like super loud so you can crank it up, but honestly your audio mix is really going to depend on the headset you have. If you feel like you can hear stuff better with a different audio mix, then definitely go ahead and try that out. I mean, but honestly, it's not like there's a best one for you guys to use that is going to be the almighty. It really just comes down to what headset you got. Are you playing through a TV, so on and so forth. There's a bunch of different variables. Just do whatever's, you know, sounding best to you. Now here's probably what a lot of you guys want to be able to see, which is going to be what are my button layouts and my sensitivities and my dead zone. Basically, I play on tactical flipped, aka that means I use the top 2 buttons, my L1 and my R1, instead of my L1 or my L2 and my R2. I like using these just because I feel like I can click them in faster, and partially also because I came from PS3. So basically PS3 was always the top button, so it's just kind of like built into me, like ingrained in my, you know, my memory. I can always use the bottom triggers if I really want to, but I just like for Call of Duty using the top ones. There's no real benefit, I guess I should say. If you have a regular controller, the benefit you're going to get out of it is that you can press the buttons in quicker, which is ultimately going to allow you to be able to aim down sights quicker and shoot quicker, as opposed to having to press the whole bottom trigger in. That's kind of one of those time things there that can really make or break you being alive or dead. But for me, I basically have these, you know, these trigger stops in here, so it kind of makes it more or less a little bit non-existent in terms of that benefit. It's just one of those things that I like to do. My stick layout is on default, and then my dead zone is on 0.10, and the reason it is on 0.10 is because I actually messed with this in like the private match, and I went through and I adjusted my dead zone all the way to the point where I had no stick drift whatsoever. What you guys should do is go load up the training if you really want to mess with your dead zone, and essentially you just need to open your map and wait and see, you know, what your dead zone is, and see if that constantly, if your character moves at all. If it moves on the mini map, then basically bump it up one more. If it keeps moving, bump it up one more. I mean, this for me works perfectly fine at a 0.10. You guys should definitely be fine right here, but if you have some wacky stick drift, just kind of mess with your dead zone a little bit so you get the least amount possible. That's what it is used for. That is literally why this option was created, is because people get a lot of stick drift and it really sucks. That's why I had to chalk one of my scuff controllers, is because like my left stick was just really getting a lot of stick drift, and I don't like that at all. I actually play on a 7:7 sensitivity for my horizontal and my vertical. There's no benefit to be on like a super really high sensitivity, and in fact actually a lot of the pro players probably play like on about a 4 or a 5. You want to basically just use the sensitivity that's going to allow you to be able to flick around and be, you know, the most mobile and most agile, but you also don't want to go super high, because at that point you're just going to be missing more shots than you are hitting. Your aim assist can only do so much for you when you're on controller. People on PC, obviously there's not really as much of a horizontal and vertical, you know, stick sensitivity, because obviously you have your mouse and keyboard and people can be absolutely cracked out. But I mean, to be honest with you, on controller, if you can't hit your shots and you're out of a high sensitivity, start moving that down and you're gonna start hitting a lot more of your shots. I promise you this. Seriously, just start moving it down. There's no reason. If people are telling you to put it super high, just move it down, play with what's comfortable for you, because ultimately you want to be able to hit the most amount of shots possible. Something that's also really huge is your ADS sensitivity multiplier for low and high zoom. I plan at 0.8. I found that when I bumped this up to 1.0, when I had it at a 1.0, basically what it kind of comes with naturally and on the game when you load it up, you want to basically lower this down, because what this actually does is it lowers your it slows you down a little bit more when you aim in, so it allows you to be more precise when you pull, you know, your gun up. If sometimes you can just be running and you see somebody and you want to be able to pull your gun up, but then you may just go a little bit past them, or, you know, in some way, shape, or form. This is going to allow you to slow yourself down a little bit more, and I think this is incredibly beneficial. So try this, you know, 0.8. I mean, mine's at 0.81 and 0.8. I'm just gonna put this back to 0.8. You won't see a difference with that 0.01, but for me, I'm just gonna, you know, put it back. My aim response curve is actually just on standard. I've seen people actually use something like linear or dynamic, and they really like how it is. I don't really notice a difference. I've just always used standard, so I mean, there's just really kind of what I like to use. I just use standard. There's no benefit here or there. I mean, it's not like there's one almighty god tier 1. Just use whatever works for you. Also, my aim assist, some of you guys are probably wondering, this is just on standard. I've seen people actually use something like focusing, because that is apparently better for people that are new to analog aiming. I tried it out and I was like, okay, if it's for people that are new to analog aiming, I'm not really seeing anything different here, but I guess it really is all down to personal preference. If you see like there's something better with focusing versus precision versus standard, I'm just gonna tell you right now, I use standard. This seems to be the best for me. You don't really gotta get too crazy with it. I mean, your settings aren't gonna make or break you, but they can definitely affect the way you're playing the game. Also, my aim assist is scaled with my FOV because I play on 120 FOV. I want to make sure my aim assist is indeed scaled with it. That's why it looks like sometimes when I hit some crazy shots and I lock onto people that, you know, it's like, oh my god, like he's using a Cronus or something like that. It's like, no, it's just my aim assist is indeed scaled with my field of view. So I have a really zoomed out field of view and I just pull over to somebody. You know, that's just because I can see them and I just flick onto them and I aim in, and the aim assist and also that lower the sensitivity multiplier actually helps me slow down a little bit, so it can really make me lock onto people, which is definitely really nice. So if you guys really want to be able to make sure you change in here is on your use/reload behavior. You want to make sure this is on contextual tap, and the reason you want to be able to make sure this is on contextual tap is because when you go up to crates, you're picking guns up off the ground, especially when you're like kind of like a frenzy, you know, you just drop superstore, you want to be able to just tap the button to be able to pick it up. You don't have to hold. I mean, it's gonna really slow you down when you're trying to do stuff. And to be honest, I mean, I think it is incredibly beneficial. This is probably one of those, you know, settings in here that is gonna really affect your game, especially when you drop in, you know, something like crazy like Superstore. You just gotta pick up a gun and start, you know, taking people out. Put on contextual tap and you will 10 times out of 10 beat somebody that has on tap to reload, because they have to hold to pick up the gun, then they have to, you know, bring the gun up, kind of, you know, cock it back. I mean, when you got contextual tap, you basically just bypass the entire process. Also, my armor plate behavior is apply all. I just like being able to do that. I think this is incredibly useful, so you guys should definitely put that on if you do not have it. My slide behavior is on hold. My auto move forward is disabled, and something that I think is very beneficial to actually saving your controller in saving your analog sticks is putting on automatic tactical sprint. I should say though that it is not the most beneficial when you're trying to use something that is hip fire related, like, you know, like a shotgun or something like that. When you're just trying to run in there, it can kind of get a little bit wonky, but when you actually play regularly, I just found myself constantly mashing that sprint button with my left stick, and it wore my left stick out incredibly fast, which is very bad, and I did not like that at all. So when I switched to automatic tactical sprint, I started really saving my controller stick, and it was very, very nice. So I would recommend doing this, and then actually maybe you can take it off every once in a while if you really want to experiment with something, but otherwise you can definitely just get used to running automatic tactical sprint, even with using something like a shotgun. I honestly don't really have too many issues with it, but I know some people definitely can. And last but definitely not least, my parachute auto deploy is indeed enabled. Sometimes I find that, you know, my buttons just for whatever reason don't work, and so it's always nice to be able to make sure that this actually pulls the parachute for you. That's all my settings I got for you guys here today. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you did, give it a like, subscribe with all notifications turned on. Make sure you guys comment on the comment section below. And with that being said, just remember, triple cap, don't be Randy, and I'm out. Peace.